Hello, my name is Emily Atkins. This project is a joint production of the University of Maine School of Law's Refugee and Human Rights Clinic, the Immigrant Legal Advocacy Project, and Justice for Our Neighbors in Portland, Maine. This multi-part video series aims to inform you about the procedure for applying for asylum in the U.S. without the assistance of a lawyer. Maine Law's Refugee and Human Rights Clinic and the Immigrant Legal Advocacy Project have also prepared a detailed written guide in English, French, Spanish, and Arabic, called How to Apply for Asylum in the U.S. This guide is available online. We strongly suggest that you read this guide carefully and watch these videos as you prepare your asylum application. The purpose of this particular video is to teach you how to write a personal declaration to include with your asylum application. First, I will explain what a personal declaration is and why it is important. Then, I will talk about some things you need to know before you start writing your declaration. Finally, I will discuss how to organize your declaration and what you need to include in it. The personal declaration is one component of your application. If you have already submitted your Form I-589, or if you do not have enough time before your one-year deadline, the personal declaration must be completed at some point before your interview, meaning you can complete it after you send in your I-589. If you have time before your one-year deadline, compile all documents to send in at once. This includes the I-589, the personal declaration, and supporting evidence. For more information on the one-year deadline, please watch the first video in this series. A personal declaration is a typed or handwritten statement that explains in detail why you fled your home country and/or why you now fear returning to your home country. The declaration is submitted as part of your application for asylum and is probably the most important part of your application because it is your chance to tell the asylum officer what happened to you in your own words. Your declaration is your personal story, and it should include a description of the harm you suffered in your home country and/or the harm you fear you will suffer if you return to your home country, and why that fear is reasonable. And it should explain why you left and what would happen if you returned to your home country. As was discussed in the first video in this series, harm can be physical or psychological. It can also include any threats made against you or others, or any fear you have of future harm, even if you were never harmed in the past. First, I'm going to go over some general points you should keep in mind while writing your declaration. Your declaration must be detailed, specific, and truthful. You must assume that the asylum officer knows absolutely nothing about your case or your country. Tell the story of what life is like in your country. Always tell the truth. Do not add things to fill in gaps in your memory, and do not put in facts that are not true, even if a family member or friend suggests you add it to make your case stronger. Never guess about important details. If you are unsure or do not remember exactly, say so and explain why you don't know the precise answer. For example, if some armed men broke into your house, you might be tempted to guess how many there were. But if you cannot remember exactly how many there were, just say many or several men attacked you. Or you may not remember the exact date that an event occurred. If you can remember that it was in the beginning of May or the end of summer, say that instead of guessing the specific day. Be as specific as you can, but stay true to how vague your memory is. It is important that you tell your story as it actually occurred and do not exaggerate. Thinking about what facts to include and what stories to tell can be overwhelming. There may be a lot to tell, but focus on the facts that are relevant to your fear of returning home. Your declaration should be written in the first person. Writing in the first person means writing from the I point of view. For example, I was at work when I heard ... You should walk the reader through your story and put the reader in your shoes to see what was happening from your point of view. Your declaration must be in English. It can be translated from your own language, but be sure that a very good translator does the translation. The translator must be completely fluent in English. it is very important that your declaration is accurately translated. A small mistake can cause a big problem. For example, if in your declaration you said 3 men attacked you, but in your interview you say it was just 1, the immigration officer might think you are lying. Once your statement is translated, have the translator read the English version back to you in your own language so you can be sure that each word is correct. When you are satisfied that your declaration is correct, you will need to attach a certificate of translation to the copy you send to USCIS. A sample certificate can be found in the guide, How to Apply for Asylum in the United States. If your declaration is translated into English, you will need to submit a copy of the declaration in your native language and in English. Your declaration must be consistent with the documents that you use to support your application. For example, if your passport says that you were born in 1975, but your declaration says that you were born in 1973, the asylum officer may think that your story is not true. If there is an inconsistency, explain it in your declaration. It is okay if there are inconsistencies. Asylum officers understand that sometimes there are mistakes on official documents. Correct any mistakes in the declaration and explain why the mistake happened. Remember your audience. When you write your declaration, it is important to remember that the asylum officer has a job to do. One part of the asylum officer's job is to protect those who have been or are in danger of being harmed because of their political opinion, race, nationality, religion, or social group. Therefore, it is very important to explain in great detail exactly what harm you faced in your home country and/or what harm you fear, and the identity of the person or group that harmed you or you fear will harm you, and why he or she wants to mistreat you. Some people also wonder how they can weave supporting evidence into their declaration. There will be an opportunity to submit evidence, such as human rights report, later in the application. But keep any evidence in the declaration contained to that which is specific to you individually. This can be a police report or an arrest warrant. You can use this as an opportunity to explain why you don't have a particular piece of evidence. Maybe you fled without thinking about what documents to bring with you, or it was unsafe for you to get them or carry them with you. Now that I have discussed some general things to keep in mind, I'm going to talk specifically about how to organize and write your personal declaration. The personal declaration should have a beginning, middle, and an end. It is your story. The declaration should be written in paragraphs, and each paragraph should be numbered 1, 2, 3, and so on. Each paragraph should discuss a different event or idea. Most declarations are between 5 and 20 pages, but each story requires a different length. Give details about each event as you experienced it. What did you see, smell, and hear? Be detailed, but focus on relevant facts. The following are some questions to think about when you sit down to write each part of your declaration. The beginning is your background information and the summary of your claim. Your declaration is your introduction to the officer, so you must include things that someone who has never met you would need to know. Basic things like who you are and where you are from. Information about your family, their names in relation to you. Whether you're a member of any particular group. The amount of detail you will want to go in here depends on your claim. For example, if your asylum claim is based on persecution of your tribe, religious, or political group, give some detail about the group and any history of tensions between your group and others, such as the government. For more in-depth refresher on what this means, watch the first video in this series. Talk about what life is like in your home country for people like you. If you want to, the end of this first section is a good time to give a few sentence summary of your claim. Explain very simply and broadly why you cannot return home. For example, because I spoke out against the government at a rally, I was abducted and tortured by the military. I escaped, but I know I cannot return without being recognized and killed. The middle section is what happened to make you leave your home country. Asylum claims can be based on either threats or harm. Threats can be a basis for asylum, even if not carried out. Perhaps you were not harmed because you were able to escape in time. This can still be a basis for asylum because you might fear being harmed if you returned. Think about when you began suffering harm or fearing that you would suffer harm in your home country. If you weren't harmed, did you hear of other people like yourself who were harmed? If so, give examples of that. Include details about all the events leading up to and after any given incident. Think about who harmed you or threatened you. How? What happened? When did it happen? Where it applies, add supplementary details like how it made you feel, whether you tried to protect yourself, whether anyone tried to help you, and how you escaped. Other details which support your claim can include whether you tried to move to another part of the country, and why you realized you had to leave and how you left. Examples of information to include about each time you were harmed or threatened could be: when were you harmed or threatened? Date, year, time of year, etc. What time of day was it? Where did it occur? How many people were there? What did they look like? How were they dressed? For example, a police uniform. Were they carrying weapons? What did the people do when they arrived? What did they say? Did they threaten or harm you? How? How much time passed during this incident? Did you know these people? Had you ever seen them before? How did you know them, or where did you see them? Why do you think they chose to harm or threaten you? How do you know? What happened next? You can also think about whether other people like you were similarly harmed or threatened, and how you know that. Were you there? Did they tell you? Did you hear about it from some other source? These are only a few examples of the kinds of things that you should include in your declaration. Every asylum case is different. The most important thing to remember is to tell the truth and to include enough detail in your declaration to explain to the asylum officer why you fled your home country and/or why you cannot return to your home country. The end of your story deals with leaving your country and your arrival in the U.S. Think and write about: why did you decide to come to the U.S.? How did you get to the U.S.? And when did you arrive? Answer again why you are afraid or unable to return to your home country. Even though your declaration is all about the answer to this question, you should still summarize here why you are afraid and what you think would happen if you returned. Know that everything you say in your declaration and in the entire application will be kept confidential. It will not be shared with anyone besides the asylum officers reviewing your case, and no one will know that you have applied for asylum. Be aware that writing your declaration may be emotionally difficult. Many people find it difficult to recount the events that caused them to flee their home country. For example, if you witnessed the death of someone you loved, you might have a difficult time sharing that memory with someone else, especially a stranger. Similarly, if you were physically abused or tortured, it is normal to not want to talk about it. However, in order to win your asylum case, you need to tell the asylum officer exactly what happened, when it happened, how it happened, and why it happened. You are the expert on your story, and if you do not tell the asylum officer your whole story, then no one else will. Sometimes, however, people may have suffered so much harm that they have forgotten many of the details or even the entire harmful event. For example, if someone was raped, they may have blocked out memory of the rape itself. If this is the case, it is important to explain this in your declaration. As mentioned earlier, it is okay if you do not remember something. The process of recalling these memories may be hard, but ultimately, the more honest and open you are about what has happened to you, the better the chance you have of winning your asylum claim.